Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of the Team Full Heart training series. And I'm so excited to have Amanda Holmberg here with us today. And we have a topic that I'm really excited to share with you guys because I know this is something that's really near and dear to Amanda's heart as well as mine. And it's all about the Beachbody ripple effect and how, sure, Beachbody provides you income. Sure, you're going to get probably in good shape and you're going to get healthy and happy, but there's a lot of other things that go on in our lives because of Beachbody. So I will let Amanda introduce herself really quick so you guys can get to know her a bit better, and then we'll kind of dive into some questions I have for her.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Oh, I'm so excited to be here. I like Beachbody has been such a blessing in my life. And I felt like when I was sitting down to think about what I was going to chat about, I almost got emotional because I'm like, oh, I can't even, sometimes you forget to reflect on the massive impact it's had. So yes, I'm Amanda. I started Beachbody coaching 2 years and a bit ago, and my husband is doing it part-time with me. He is a life coach, so he's kind of helping on that side of things. And so, yeah, so I'm just here to chat about kind of the holistic view and everything that, Beachbody has helped me with and, transformed for me and for our family and for the people around us. So
Awesome. And let's go back 2 years. Let's go back to just before you signed up. Were you a challenger first? Kind of where were you at in your life before coaching kind of came into play?
yeah, so before I became a coach, I was a registered nurse, and I worked at what I considered my dream job in public health. And the reason why I considered that my dream job is because when I went into nursing, I really wanted to be on like the health promotion, disease prevention sort of thing. So to help people before they got sick. And I think a lot of that came from growing up. My parents divorced when I was 2, and my dad struggled a lot with mental illness. And so at a very young age, I realized like how significant, like on the outside, physically we were very healthy, financially we were really well, but on the inside there was a lot of mental and emotional struggles. And so I realized really early on like how significant that mental and emotional health is to the whole picture, and that without that, everything kind of falls apart. And so I always wanted to, look at health in that holistic picture. And so when I went into nursing, I was like, what area can I really focus on, not just helping them physically or not just helping them at the bedside, but looking at it like at a much bigger scale. So I went and got into public health, and I was working with moms and babies, which I absolutely loved. We would go to the parents' house after the mom came home with the baby, and we would kind of be there for her in whatever capacity she needed. So physically, whether it's like breastfeeding or whatever was going on with her, or just emotionally and mentally. And what I noticed really quickly was that, it seemed like 90% of these moms I visited were really struggling like with that postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety. Like it was just blowing up, like it was becoming such a thing. And we would follow up with them at the 2-month mark and the 4-month mark. And it just seemed like it was getting worse. And they were just going down, like there was nothing there to help them. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I couldn't help them in the capacity, like in where I was at with the healthcare system. We could help them with one piece, but it just was missing that holistic view. And it wasn't really getting down to the source of, what was really going on for them. And then of course, just the time, like I didn't have the time to spend with them. Our healthcare system, like we just have so many people to see. And it broke my heart to see these moms just not really have any answers. And so fast forward to then me becoming a mom, and it kind of hit me on a whole nother level, because then I was personally faced with those same things. And becoming a mom, like I was such a go-getter before becoming a mom. So when I had my baby, and it's kind of like life just slowed down all of a sudden, and I was really faced with like, okay, who am I? And I can't just run out the door with my title as an RN and just like go, 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 and like do all these tasks to kind of cover up, some whatever was going on with me emotionally, mentally. So I was really faced with that with my baby, and just kind of sitting with that. And I knew, I was like, oh, I have such a family history of this mental health, and I'm like, I have to jump on it like right away. And so I knew that, exercise was always such a good release for me. It was such a quick, like, that endorphin boost, and that, you would feel better about your body. And especially after pregnancy, all the changes that happen, it was just like, okay, if I can just do that, I know I'm like I'm doing one thing a little bit better. Mm-hmm. And so I had these like old DVDs of T25 that, I don't know, I think my brother had or something. And I popped them in, and I started doing them, and I felt so much better in that moment. And like, for a couple hours in the day, and then it would kind of wear off a little bit. And so the next day I would show up again, press play, get it, and I would get that little boost, and then it would wear off. And then I was like, okay, there has to be something more. And I was really inconsistent with the workout. So I would be great for like a week, and then I would like drop off for a week, because I didn't have the accountability. I didn't have like anyone cheering me on. It was kind of like me on my own. And being a new mom, I felt really lonely. Like we had just moved to a new place, and your friends change. Like,
motherhood is so lonely. That's something people don't talk about beforehand, is like, you might have someone come over for coffee, or you might have, a friend or family member pop by, but there's a lot of hours in the day, and you're awake for a lot of those hours, and it's lonely. It really is.
Yes. And the communication with this newborn is like, oh, it's hard.
Tell me what you want. For sure. And it's nice because like those groups, like any sort of accountability group with Beachbody, that's honestly like a big part of my postpartum healing, was being integrated within that community, and having just like at the click of my phone, like all these people supporting and cheering me on top of what I was getting from family and friends. So it's a really positive thing in my life right now, especially like lacking adult interaction. And like you, it's like I would just get up and go, and I would do all the things and go whenever you want. And now it's kind of like, I haven't felt sun on my face in a couple days. So yeah, I can relate. I totally get that for sure. So then you were doing T25 DVDs. Do you feel like everybody's story begins with like some old dusty DVDs in someone's basement?
Yeah.
And then from there, like, how did you find out about the community?
Yeah. So I had deleted everyone off of my Facebook except for 8 people. And that was because I was struggling so much. Like, I had all this negativity going on in my head. I'm like, I can't consume any negativity. Like, I have to like block that out. And so I had 8 people on my Facebook. 2 of them were Beachbody coaches, and I did not know that they were Beachbody coaches at that time. I had no idea what Beachbody coaching was. I didn't think it was a thing. And then the rest were family. So the reason why I kept those 2 people is because every day they would post something like so inspiring and so uplifting, and like they were just this bright light. And I'm like, every day I was like excited to see what they were going to post, because it felt so good. And so then one day, one of my friends, one of those girls, reached out to me and said, hey, you're doing like these workouts. Like, have you ever considered being a coach and like inspiring others along the way? And I'm like, what? I'm like, what is this? And then she's like, well, I'll send you some more information. And that day she sent me this video, and I remember Tanner, my husband, it was in the morning, he got up to go to work, and I was like, oh my gosh, this girl sent me this video about this Beachbody coaching stuff. And I'm like, there's no way I would be a part of it at all, but I'm going to watch it and see. He came home that night, and I'm like, Tanner, this is amazing. Like, I'm all in. Like, what happened? And it was it was like, okay, from that information I saw, like, number one, when you become a coach, like the biggest, most important thing is showing up and owning your own journey. And I'm like, I need that. I needed that consistency for my own mental health. And I knew that if I put myself in that leadership position, I would have to show up, and I would just do it. So I'm like, okay, that's huge. And then the second part was like, okay, they're posting all this positive stuff. They're like learning, like that's like one of the critical behaviors is like improving yourself and like reading. And I didn't even know what podcasts were when and she like showed me it's like built in on my iPhone. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. So then I became like podcast and audiobook like addicted. And I'm like, okay, this is incredible. Like physical fitness, but mental fitness was the biggest part for me. So I'm like, if I have to show up every day and I have to learn something new, I'm like, it's like time for myself that's outside of caring for my baby. Like that was huge. And I just felt like every day I was learning something. So I was growing. And I know like Tony Robbins has like drilled it into me is like as long as you're growing, you're going to experience happiness, like that feeling of happiness and that feeling of like, you don't have to be at your goal yet, but if you're working your way there, like you're going to feel that sense of like joy and happiness. And yeah.
There's so much joy found in progress, honestly, like whether you're at your goal or not, like no matter what that goal is, whether it's fitness related or not, seeing progress is so fulfilling. So yeah, I completely agree with that too. So the next question that I have for you is obviously the decision to coach kind of came from that place, right? Is like you could blend both those worlds between, getting yourself healthy and happy, helping others the way that you have as a nurse. It really combined those worlds so well. So that's kind of the ripple effect it had on you, is realizing like, beyond the fitness part of it, the mental health part of it. And I'm realizing that now more than ever. I didn't really know what to expect postpartum, and I don't think anybody does going into it, right? But then afterwards, I was really overwhelmed with anxiety. I've never experienced that in my life before. I don't have a history of mental health problems. I was really shocked when I found myself like, oh, that's what this is. This feeling of like impending doom and fear, and just like not knowing, the unknown is terrifying. And you have all these irrational fears about your baby, about you, about the future, whatever. And then I was so excited. I literally on the calendar had that 6-week postpartum appointment. And I knew I was just like, oh my gosh, the moment I get out of that doctor's office, I am doing my first workout, not because I wanted to lose the baby weight, not because I cared what size my pants were, but because up here, I needed that. I needed that release, and just a walk around the block wasn't doing it for me. So I knew that like that workout, which ended up being Morning Meltdown 100, but whatever it would have been, was just, I felt like an instant wave of like, oh, like that felt good. I'm going to do that again tomorrow, and the day after that, and then the day after that. And I don't think I've taken many rest days because they're so short, right? And it's just a way for me to make sure my mental health is taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I felt like when I was thinking back to all these women who were suffering with this anxiety and, depression and just not feeling them and kind of like feeling like they've lost themselves, I'm like, this is something that would help so much. Just that daily, just one step forward, just a little bit of growth, just a little bit of like pouring into your cup, just like a little bit of like new knowledge and like new ideas, and trying something new. Like even like I didn't know about the 5-minute journal until one of the podcasts told me about it, and that was like, it transformed everything for me. But I wouldn't have been open. I wouldn't have known that in my tiny little world of me and baby. And so so it really like, I was like, okay, this is where my passion is, because I know how much it's helped me. And this is like, again, looking at that holistic picture, it's like mental health, physical health, emotional health. And then once you start learning, like once you start diving into, once you start feeling good actually through your workouts, then you want to learn more and you want to be better. Like, okay, I feel good physically. Now I want to like work on my relationship, or
Mhm.
now I want to work at becoming a better mom. And then for me, I was even like, now I want to, work on my spiritual health. And
Yeah.
that never would have even crossed my mind before.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's pretty safe to say that you had very few hesitations diving into being a coach. Like initially that moment, that one day, like less than 24-hour period where you're like, oh yeah, I'm not going to do this. And then later in the day, you're like, okay, yeah, yeah, this is for me.
Except for the fact that when I did start, like my first year was brutal because what I had in my head was I was like, I have to be 110% at something before I do anything.
Mm,
That was devastating. And it was just like, I didn't move. I didn't grow in my business at all because I was stuck in trying to learn everything instead of actually just getting out and failing forward.
yeah.
When I finally learned that, when I finally like got the hang of it, I'm like, this is like applicable to everything in life.
Mhm.
Like life is a do as like learn as you do, like learn as you take action.
For
And
sure.
so that was such a huge lesson for me, like life lesson that I'm so grateful Beachbody taught me that so early.
Yeah. And I think even for me, like before Beachbody, even like going to the gym, I like didn't want to go because I wasn't fit enough. It's the same idea, right? It's like, well, that makes no sense. You go to the gym to get fit, or like you do these things to learn, not, what's it saying? In order to be great, I forget what it is. But anyways, you need it to embrace like the failing, the uncomfortableness, the awkwardness, and just go for it. Because honestly, that is when I learned the most, was when I just was like, well, I'm going to give this a try. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, write that down. Don't do that again. And then, oh, I tried this and it worked really well. Perfect. I'm going to hammer that out into that every single day. But that's probably, you're right, the most common mistake I see new coaches make, or people, who don't even end up signing up because they're just scared that they don't know enough, or they're not smart enough, or not tech savvy enough, or fit enough, or not great with taking pictures. But you learn as you go. Like if you go back to like my first year as a coach and look at the posts I made, ugh, they're like cringeworthy. They're not good. And like the way I interacted with people and, wanted to invite to this community, it was gross and it was not good. But you learn, right? You're not going to be perfect off the hop, and that's okay.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like, yeah, it's really just accepting that it's going to be messy a
Yeah.
lot.
And like messy's okay. Messy's good. And like that's where you create art. Okay. So I want to ask you a couple more questions. Um, so if you could just kind of like summarize it, what impact has coaching had on your life? The biggest impact that it's had on your life, other than like completely changing your life altogether. Can you
Yeah,
just sum that up for me real quick?
I know it's such a loaded question. It's so hard, but really like two things. The first thing is belief, and like belief in my like ability that I have something to offer the world in my like in what I'm most passionate about, not in what some corporation is telling me I should do it, and to help people the way that they want to be helped. Um, and believing that I can do that, and then believing in others. Like that has just been like the most rewarding thing, is like people don't need more information out there these days. They don't need like how to's. They don't like, we're bombarded with information, but believing in people and cheering them on and like telling them no matter what, I got your back. And like, I'm here. I'm like making sure that, you are achieving what you want to achieve. And, regardless of whether you think you can get there or not, I believe wholeheartedly you can. And just pouring that into others is like when I've had people come back and say like, that was the game changer for me. Just like, oh, I get so emotional because it's just, I needed that.
Yeah.
And so that belief. And then number two is contribution. Like, I feel like that's just like, it's a basic human need aside from like
Mhm.
shelter. It's like,
Yeah.
we want to contribute to others and we want to contribute to this world. So yeah, being able to contribute in something that I'm like extremely passionate about is such a gift. And every day, like I used to hear people say this, that they would wake up and they were just like, so excited to do their job and to do it. And I wasn't feeling that with nursing. And it was like eating away at my soul. I'm like, this life is too short to feel that way. Like I'm a passionate person. I want to be doing something I'm passionate about, like all the way.
Absolutely.
That's what this has given me. And that's just, I can't ask for anything more.
Oh, for sure. And it's so nice to be able to feel like you're leaving a legacy behind, that you are impacting people in a positive way, because social media can go one of two ways, right? Like you can be remembered for being, outrageous, or for being a number of different things. But if I could be remembered as being, gracious and kind and positive and impacting the lives of others, like I never would have had that opportunity. Do you think people like throughout their day talk about like how their dental hygienist like positively impacted their life? And maybe, but I doubt it. But I feel like with this, it's given me an opportunity to positively impact people in a way that I wouldn't have had a platform to do so before. And I think that's just something as healthcare providers, you got into this business because you want to help people, but then you realize that it's a business and we don't have creative control over it. And that's really hard. So knowing that Beachbody gives us all these products and programs and trainers and this community and all the tools to build, but then they're like, do with it as you will. This is up to you. You make it whatever you want. And that's kind of the beauty of it, because there's some really super fit people that like run it like a personal trainer would. And then there's people who are like really creative and artsy. And then there's us who are kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just showing up and sharing my journey. And it's really wonderful because, being a creative and, the kind of person that wants to work in healthcare, the two don't very often connect. So I think for us, you get that sense of release. You're like, okay, yeah, this is really aligned with me. I want to help people, but I want to do it in my own way. I don't want, to have whether it's a union or, the walls and the confines of the business that you're in. You can only do so much, right? So this is really wonderful. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. And for those of you that are watching this, missed the conversation before Amanda and I started recording. This is after bedtime for both of us. The babies are in bed for Lord knows how much longer. So we're just like doing this, but the hair is on our chinny chin chin. But like we do this not because we feel like we have to. This was a project we want to do because we're really passionate about sharing with our teams and sharing with people. And that's something that we're like okay, guys, dads, you got this for a few minutes. Okay. Like I'm going to hide in the basement and I want to connect with one of my coaches and create something beautiful. So that's just kind of where we're at right now. So I'd love to ask you, if you don't mind, what coaching has done for your family in specific. So between like your kids and with Tanner, like what do you feel like Beachbody has done for that unit?
Yeah, so every single day, I feel like it gives me the patience and the sanity to handle my toddler and my newborn. And like I talk about that all the time. It's really like as soon as I'm done that workout, I'm like, okay, I can handle this day. And I wouldn't have had that chance. Like I couldn't go to the gym with a newborn and a toddler right now. That's just not realistic for me. My husband works out of town and it just wouldn't work. So that piece has been huge. But but by feeling so much better physically, I remember when my first was born, and I would be like, okay, I just need to get my workout done before Tanner gets home so that I can be like a better, like at least a happier wife for him. Mm-hmm. And it was like, even if it was just like minutes before he walked in the door, I'm like, hallelujah, like I am here. I'm like not a total mess. I get to be present with my husband and I get to feel good. And so it was a big thing for our relationship, because I think if I was, really suffering with that, like that downward spiral I was feeling mentally, emotionally, that would have been really hard on our relationship, and him coming home from work every day to someone who's really not happy and struggling big time, like that's hard. So that was a big thing. And then, the personal development, so once I was feeling physically well, I wanted to learn more with do better with our relationship. And then just in the last year, I've really started to do more work with parenting and like really diving into how can I be a better parent? Because now I feel like, okay, physically I'm doing really well. In my marriage, I'm doing really well. So now like this is something I really need to work on. So, but if I didn't have my physical health and my emotional health, I wouldn't have been in a state to do that.
Well, because you have so many other things to worry about, right? Like you said, it's kind of like a list you're kind of going through. Okay, this is good, this is good, this is good. So if this isn't good, it's really hard to focus on the rest of it, isn't it? Because you're so consumed by that one thing. And if we're, ailing physically or mentally, that's all consuming, right? So, everything else kind of falls to the wayside. So that's a huge ripple effect that, it kind of goes down that way. I know for me, with before I began Beachbody, I was at my heaviest weight. I was really uncomfortable. I was young, like 5-6 years ago, 24, and probably should be feeling really good about myself, but the freshman 15 turned into the freshman 40, and I just was not feeling good, and I kept it on, right? I was done school, I was working, but just did not feel good in my skin, and it was hard on our relationship because I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go anywhere, and so he's, trying to be supportive, but also kind of like, girl, like get your, head out of the gutter, like stop being so like angry and grumpy and just like not myself. And I was just angry at myself, I guess, but really projecting on other people and Alex too. And so that would have been like really fun for him to be dating me at that time. Right. So I'm really glad that I started focusing on my mental and physical health, because had I not, I'm not sure we would have been together, because I was kind of miserable for sure. So yeah, it has to do with everything.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, this is a good one. So do you have advice for someone who is on the fence about becoming a coach?
Yeah. So I don't even know what we have to lose, to be honest. Like, I guess my biggest thing is like focus on your own journey
Mm.
and focus on like just becoming a better person yourself. And people are going to be so attracted to that and want to know like what is different about that person, like what is lighting her up, what is making, like what is giving her this energy and this vitality and this passion. Like I want some of that. And so it becomes a very natural, like once you start feeling better, like I've said, like that ripple effect really, like it spreads out to everyone around you, and they want to know, they want to know what's up. And so just sharing, it becomes more authentic to share it. So to not be so like, I find this is the easiest, like when I think of other businesses, like I when I first thought of like sales, like doing sales, I'm like, ew, like I went into the service business because I don't want anything to do with sales. But what I realized very quickly was sales is like influence, and we need like, and then influence comes down to confidence, like being confident in what you're passionate about. Like I have to influence my kids on like what's important to us as a family and on our values and our beliefs. Like I need to have the confidence to influence them that way. And so same thing, like before I started coaching, before I really started being like developing as a coach, I didn't have the confidence, like as a nurse, even to educate and to like to teach on what I was passionate about. I lacked that. And so it wasn't about, so just learning like sales is not, it's not about being icky, and it's not about trying to convince people to do something. It's just like influencing them. Like this is what's impacted my life significantly. And like, I know it would help you so much in, whatever area that they're working on.
Yeah.
And so just it's switching from that salesy thinking to more being an influencer, and then just really working on yourself first. And then it becomes a very natural process of impacting others that way.
I think that's why within Beachbody, like the first rule of thumb is focus on yourself. Like
Yeah.
before you can fill the cup of others, you need to fill your own with personal development, with business development, with your workouts, with your nutrition. Get healthy and happy, And when it starts overflowing, you have some to give, right? You can share that with others. And like you said, this is easy because once you're on the journey, you start feeling good and you're like, I want to tell the world about this. This is so fun and it's working for me. And literally all I do is I share what workouts I'm doing. I share what nutrition I'm implementing into my life. And that's it. I share what I'm doing and what's working for me. I am not a nutritionist. I am not a physical therapist or a, personal trainer. I am just me. And that's the beauty of it. You don't have to fit in a specific mold of what a Beachbody coach, what a successful coach looks like, because that doesn't exist. We all have that within us. And I think it's so easy to start implementing and integrating into our lives if you just start sharing. And I think that's one thing people are just scared to do, right? There's fear of judgment or fear, there's nervous to start sharing. But once you do, it's like, wow, like I'm getting connected with all these people. Ever since being brave enough to share my story and share what's working, I have met some really wonderful human beings on Instagram that I never would have met had I not started sharing my journey. So being brave enough and bold enough to do that means not only will you connect with other people, but you're going to impact other people. You're going to change someone's life and you're going to think to yourself, wow, like I'm really glad and really thankful that I did that because so-and-so is benefiting from that and this person and that person. And it's just going to grow over time. And that's a ripple effect that, like I said, leaving a legacy, that's huge for me. Huge.
Yes. Like I never thought, even as a nurse, like I didn't have people come up to me and say like, literally you changed my life. And not that I didn't do the work. And I don't take responsibility for the work that people do with Beachbody. But when they come back and say just your belief in me is what transformed everything for me, and thank you, like my marriage is better, my health is better, my parenting is better, everything is, it's like all I did was show up and share. Show up and share what was working for me and show up and share that belief. And yeah, just like there is nothing more fulfilling. Like Tanner and I have cried, like shed so many tears through like people messaging us or, talking in person. And it's just like, oh, it's so fulfilling. So yes, being brave enough to do that. It's not the easiest thing in the beginning, and to know that that's normal and to know that there is a huge payoff. I love that analogy of like the, like the ball, like it swings both ways, like the more brave you are. Yes, the pendulum, yes. So like the bigger the challenge or like the more brave you are, the bigger the reward. And when you stay in that little safe zone, like being a registered nurse and like going to my day job was really safe. And like I had everything set up, it was really comfortable. This was not comfortable, and the reward has been mind-blowing. So
for sure. Absolutely. Well, that is all I have to ask you today, unless you have anything else you want to add or share, but I really appreciate that. It's so nice to connect and talk with another coach. And I could literally talk on these calls for hours. Like I'm sure we said we were going to keep this at like 10 minutes. It just like blows up because when you get passionate about it, you just can't help talk about it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And
no problem.
Honored to share.
Absolutely. And I will have to just say that this is another ripple effect of Beachbody, is being connected to women like this that I would never geographically, have met. I never would have crossed paths with Amanda. And my life is so enriched because of Beachbody and because of women like you. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, guys.